Hello, my name is Carrie Burrows, and I'm a grad student at Gwynedd Mercy University. And today I'm going to be doing a presentation on the effects of co-teaching approaches and collaboration on teacher and student outcomes. This presentation is based on my action research project, which I just completed, and I'm eager to share the results with you. So let's get started. So before we get started into the study, I have a question for you. Is 2 always better than 1? If I have one $20 bill, that's great, but it's even better to have two $20 bills. Similarly, if I gave this cute stuffed animal to a small child, they would be thrilled, but they'd be even more thrilled with a second stuffed animal. So why am I asking this question anyway? Well, this project that I completed is on co-teaching, which is essentially having 2 teachers in one classroom. But before we get started, let's define what co-teaching is. So, what is co-teaching? Co-teaching is defined as 2 or more teachers working together with groups of students. They share responsibility for planning, delivery, and assessment of instruction, as well as maintaining the physical aspect of the classroom. Many times, these 2 teachers are comprised of one general ed teacher and one special ed teacher. So while they have similar credentials and backgrounds, they both bring a different skill set into the classroom. But you might be asking, well, why is this relevant to me? I'm not a co-teacher. What does this have to do with me? Well, after the passage of Individuals with Disabilities Act in 1975, which is also known as IDEA, there was an increase in inclusionary classrooms. Basically, this law permitted students with special needs to be instructed in the least restrictive environment, which means that a lot of students are now being instructed in the general education classroom, whereas they would have been pulled out to different classrooms previously. So as of in the fall of 2015, about 95% of students were served under IDEA and attended general education classes. And then from 2000 to 2015, the percentage went from 40% to 63% of those students who spent most of their day in the general education classroom. So what does this mean? This basically means that a lot of school districts started adopting the co-taught teaching model so that 2 teachers could be in one classroom to serve students with various levels of need. And some of you, although you might not now teach in a co-taught classroom, some of you may teach in one someday. So therefore, the purpose of this study was to examine co-teaching approaches and collaboration among teachers to improve and strengthen strategies to best meet student needs. But why is this necessary, you might ask? Well, previous research has unearthed potential problems about the co-taught teaching model. Some of these problems include power struggles between the 2 teachers. Some other problems include lack of collaboration between the 2 teachers, but can greatly affect how students learn and how the classroom is run. And there are many different approaches. In fact, there's 6 different approaches that can be utilized between 2 teachers in the co-taught classroom. So this study wanted to kind of delve a little bit more deeply into these areas to determine what works best. So let's learn a little bit more about these co-teaching approaches. So first of all, our research questions I had 4 research questions in the study. The first one is, what co-teaching approaches are most utilized by teacher participants? So there's actually 6 co-teaching approaches that we're going to learn a little bit later. And for the purpose of my study, I examined 5 of the 6 approaches, as one is not used in my research school. Secondly, how do these different approaches allow co-teachers to collaborate? As you'll see as we continue through this, some approaches allow for more teacher interaction than others. Number 3, what approaches afford the best student outcomes? And that would be based on basically student participation and student satisfaction within the classroom, as well as students meeting their learning goals. And lastly, what are some ways that the co-teaching model can be improved? Because we all know that there's usually room for improvement in many different areas of education. So, what we did was what I decided to do was use one school, which is in an affluent suburb of Philadelphia. And the reason I chose this school was because they implemented the co-teaching model 6 years ago. Now, this one school, which I'll refer to as Riverside Elementary, which is a pseudonym, is comprised of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And basically, they have one co-taught classroom in each grade in the school. So the study was comprised of 3 classrooms, 6 co-teachers, 3 of who were general education teachers, and 3 of whom were special education teachers, 1 elementary school, and the design that I used for this study was a qualitative case study, which basically means that it was a small, focused study which used qualitative data, which is basically words, details, and descriptions, as opposed to quantitative data, which is more numbers-based. The data was collected through semi-structured interviews with teacher participants, and they could choose to either be interviewed separately or with their co-teaching partner, and non-participant observations, which were performed by me. The interviews took place over the course of 1 week, and the following week, the observations took place to triangulate the data that I had already collected through my interviews. So the co-teaching approaches that are used in today's co-teaching model consist of 6. There's 1 teach, 1 assist, team teaching, parallel teaching, alternative teaching, 1 teach, 1 observe, and station teaching. For the purpose of this study, 1 teach, 1 observed was not utilized only because the research school does not use it. So basically, 1 teach, 1 assist is when you have 1 teacher at the front of the classroom and the other is kind of drifting through the room assisting students as needed. Secondly, team teaching is when 2 teachers are at the front of the class and they have both planned for the lesson and are instructing the lesson together. Parallel teaching is when the class is divided directly in half and 1 teacher takes 1 group and another teacher takes a second group. Alternative teaching is one teacher instructing while the secondary teacher is usually in the back of the room with a small cluster of kids who might need some extra help. And station teaching is utilized often for our literacy programs, and it's basically breaking the class into different parts, and 2 teachers are at 2 separate stations, and the rest of the kids are in groups that are working independently. So before I commenced my research, I did a literature review of 9 peer-reviewed journals and 1 academic book. From my literature review, I was able to notice some similarities when I conducted my own research. One of the similarities was the term professional marriage, which came through in my review as well as when talking to my participants, who agreed that the co-teaching relationship is a lot like a professional marriage in that there has to be trust, communication, respect, openness, and often flexibility. My participants, as well as other research, said that collaboration between co-teachers is vital to success in the co-taught classroom, and that many teachers that I talked to said that they did feel unprepared to collaborate. This might be because they've had their own classroom for years, or they're just new to teaching. They also agreed that collaboration must take effect in planning, instruction, and management of the classroom in order for it to be successful. Some of the differences that were noted between my literature review and my study were essentially dealing with the one teach, one assist approach. While the participants in my study really enjoy and utilize that approach, the literature review I conducted found some problems with that approach in terms of unequal power in the classroom. And actually one study suggested that one teach, one assist is no better than having just one teacher in the classroom. I found through my observations and by talking to teacher participants that one teach, one assist works well, especially when used in combination with team teaching. So here are some of my findings from my research. First of all, the most used co-teaching approach is the one teach, one assist. 66.7% of my participants use one teach, one assist the most in the classroom, while the other 33.3% use a variation of station, alternative, team, and one teach, one assist. Parallel teaching is not regularly utilized in these classrooms. When it comes to preferences for approaches to best meet student needs, there was a little bit of a division here. Some teachers prefer the one teach, one assist. Others said the station teaching works best for that. And still others said the alternative teaching, where you're meeting with just the small groups of students, works best. While one teacher said it's really dependent upon the need of the student. Now, in terms of collaboration, which is an essential ingredient of co-teaching, most of the teacher participants felt that team teaching required the most collaboration, because not only are you instructing together, but you're also planning the lesson together. So both teachers have to have full knowledge of the material for team teaching. One teacher said that parallel teaching she felt needed collaboration because you both need to kind of be on the same page even though you're working with different students. And one teach, one assist also ranked in terms of collaboration because these participants feel that that the teachers are working together in the classroom when they utilize one teach, one assist. So in terms of student outcomes, when asked about the learning goals of the students in the classroom, all of the teacher participants said that the students in their classrooms were either meeting or exceeding the learning goals that had been established for the student. Now, some of the teachers participants really had some issues that can really affect collaboration with other teachers. One of the things that I kept hearing in my research was the lack of planning time that teachers have today in order to plan with another teacher. So that ranked high as a challenge to collaboration. Also, changing teaching partners. This school district, in this particular school, has different teachers coming in and out. So they found that to be a challenge because you need to establish a relationship with your co-teacher, and then sometimes at the end of the school year you might be told that you're getting a new co-teacher the following school year, and then you have to start all over again. So one teacher said the first time she got her new co-teacher, it was like ripping off a band-aid to say goodbye to the other one. So that can be challenging because there's a lot of, like in any relationship, there's a lot of time that needs to go into building that co-teaching partnership. Also, perceived inequality can sometimes be a factor, whereas one teacher might not feel like they are of the same value as the other teacher. And one way to overcome that, they said, was through using pronouns such as our classroom, us, and really explaining to the students from the beginning of the year that they were a team and that the students can come to either of them at any time. So in terms of improvements to the co-teaching model, more planning time ranked the highest amongst my teacher participants. They said a lot of times they're just finding planning time in the beginning of the day, at lunch, or right after school ends, emailing, texting, but some more structured planning time would be great, along with meeting with other co-teachers to bounce off ideas and strategies. Training also ranked up high, with training coming into co-teaching as well as professional development while they are co-teaching. So recommendations after completing my research are that there should be long-term co-teaching partnerships implemented just to make a more solid relationship between co-teachers, which will ultimately have more successful outcomes in the classroom. There should be training and professional development offered to teachers. As you know, things in education are always changing and new strategies are being implemented. This will be very helpful for co-teachers. Co-teaching approaches should always meet the needs of the students in the classroom at that time. This means that some approaches might not work. They might work one year, but they might not work the best the next year because the student body has changed. And as we know, kids have different needs, so your approach strategy might need to change on a year-to-year basis. Also, I recommend that team teaching and one teach, one assist should be used in combination together, where both teachers plan and know the lesson, and then one teacher teaches in the front, the other teacher also teaches while assisting students throughout the classroom. So finally, in conclusion, my research is a springboard for other research to be implemented. As usually happens when you have an idea and you research it, you find other ideas that also might need to be researched. So I believe that using one teach, one assist together with team teaching should be implemented, and then quantitative research on students' achievements and also teacher satisfaction with the collaboration should be conducted. I would also recommend that teachers continue to use station and alternative teaching to differentiate instruction and continue to monitor student outcomes and their learning goals, and quite possibly implement this type of differentiated instruction into other areas of study during the day. Lastly, I think that professional development should be implemented in co-teaching, and there should be research performed before it's implemented, during, and after to gauge the success of collaboration. So, my final question to you guys now is, after hearing about the co-teaching model, is 2 better than 1 in co-teaching? Despite some of the drawbacks, there's a lot of positive benefits, and I think with more strategies and more of what I discussed in my research, that the co-teaching model will continue to develop and be utilized more frequently in school districts everywhere. But you can be the judge of that. Thank you for listening, and I'll take any questions that you have now.